I am a little worried about today's design, but I think I have a way to do it, and I think that we're going to make it happen, so excited to give it a shot. Join me today on today's Recreate with Canva as we look to recreate this stunning design from Allan Peters. Let's get started. So as I mentioned, this design comes from Allan Peters, who I found on Dribbble. It is a beautiful, sharp design of a United States star that he's created. It's actually worth, if you come to the Dribbble URL here, which I'll include below the video, he gives a link to a larger project that he's doing for branding the United States, and it's got some really stunning work, like some really great iconography. You can see how great it looks on the side of t-shirts and everything else, so it's worth a look and some really inspiring pieces. Definitely some things I would want to purchase, so definitely check that out. And that's at petersdesigncompany.com, but again, I'll link to his Dribbble account here for this particular design that we're going to try to implement. So the key to this one is actually a super useful trick in Canva that really extends its capabilities, and specifically that's realizing that you can use Canva to create an image, download that image, and then use that image again inside of Canva itself. So what that does is that Canva's not always going to have the exact element you need to create the design that you want, right? So that, but as opposed to being limited by that, you can create the piece that you would need in Canva. And in this case, what we're going to be creating is kind of this star, or say these striped squares with a bit of an odd angle. We're going to create that in Canva, download it, and then come back, re-upload it, and then position it on top of one another layered to try to create this effect. So again, I'm really excited to give this one a shot. Let's see if we can't get into it. So we hop over to Canva to take a look here. Again, just stunning design. We're going to create a new board where we'll be doing our actual work. I don't know that we'll nail it exactly one-to-one. I think if you spent a lot of time doing it, you could, but I'm going to more focus on getting the generality so we can kind of see the tricks together. What I want to do actually is start with a large board so the quality will be as much as possible. What's important here is that when we do download a new file, it's going to be a PNG. It's going to be an image that if we stretch it too large, it would ruin the quality. You can imagine having any digital photo, and if you zoom in, you can see the pixels. What we wouldn't want to do is to create, download, and then re-upload a photo that's too small so that if we have to extend it a bit, it looks blurry. So instead, what we're going to do is make sure that we make it nice and big so that if we have to do any scaling, it's making it smaller. And that's to make sure it's nice, it's sharp and crisp. So again, always try to make sure you're not stretching an image until it becomes blurry, because that greatly reduces the quality. So let's create a design, and let's say it's 1920 by even 1600. We're going to make it fairly large. So my intention here is we need to, I might resize it to 1400. I want to be a little wider than it is taller. Here we go. So the first step, as I see it, is we need to create a shape with these beautiful red lines kind of going off slightly slanted. And we'll make that into a square so that the left side is kind of transparent, so then we can upload it. So you'll see a bit more what I mean. So, and this will be good too, because you can see how you can deconstruct certain designs if you want to be inspired by them, so that you can redo them yourself. And again, I always like to mention this: never copy one-to-one. It's lazy, and it's just not going to serve you as far as being inspired. Feel free to be inspired by something. I want to take this idea to an interesting place, but never copy. Copying is never going to serve you well. So let's try to create these squares. Now, as much as I say that, for my versions, it's going to be pretty close to exactly what he has, but that's only because I'm trying to show what's capable. Let's grab that red. Let's get started. So we're going to we need to draw some squares. Let's go to our elements, grab our trusty square, and let's add in Sorry, I clicked without really talking about it. So this is the eyedropper tool. It's an extension for Chrome. It allows you to grab any color you see on screen, and it's super useful. In this case, we grabbed this really great red that he had. But of course, you're not limited to color from the initial design. You can use anything you like. But we'll paste that in. That's the red. Okay, now we need to make thin bars. And then we need to slant it and then repeat it a whole bunch. Now this is actually a useful trick too. Canva has some limitations as far as how thin you can make something, right? So in this case, it's only letting me go down to 90. In this case, I want it to be a little thinner. It's really beautiful thin lines that he's done here. So what I'd like to, so one trick is if you bump up against this is as small as you can make it, go to the corner and scale it that way. What you'll notice is that you can still make it longer and then you can keep scaling it. So I'm going to grab the corner, since I can't make it thinner, and I'm going to scale it down. Now if I still want it to be longer, which I do, I need this to be much longer, we can zoom in. Let's see, let me get my head out of the way. So we'll come to the bottom right. Now we'll zoom in a whole lot, and you'll see here now, I can stretch it out. All right, so make it nice and long for our purposes, and if I want to make it even thinner, I can just keep grabbing the corner and bringing it down. So that's one way to get past the limitation of how wide you can make it. That's really effective for lines as well if you want to make the line thinner. Okay, let's zoom back out so I can see what I'm doing. Let's see, bring my face back there because that's what everyone came here to see. Now we need to slant it ever so slightly. You know what? So the another thing to do is that we could either just copy this whole thing, which I actually might do. I was also going to say another way to do it is if you grab a screenshot tool, you can just grab a little section as opposed to the entire image. Which actually, I'm going to do that because it's going to be a little easier to work with. I don't know if this snipping tool is showing up on screen right now, but I'm just using the snip tool from Windows to grab a section of the lines so that I can kind of get the angle right. Now again, because we're just being inspired by this, it's not really important that you get it so exact. You could find the angle that you want, but in my case, I just want to, again, kind of show how it'd be done. So I grabbed the snipping tool to grab a screenshot, then I just pasted it in, so now I can preview it and check it out. Now in this case, I want to use this red, but this is now conflicting with that. We can just go and reduce the transparency, so it'll be a little easier to see. You can also lock it, so it's not going to be moving around, but I think we're going to be okay. Now you'll notice one of the key things he's done here is that the angled lines eventually get cut off nicely, which produce the sharp angles we'll need for the star, but I'll show you how we'll do that in a second. I just want to get the angle roughly right, and that looks good to me. So now that looks good. Let's go ahead and copy it. Oh, it's a little off still. The design perfectionist is keeping it in. So let's grab it. So copy and paste. Copy and paste. And we're just moving them along. And don't worry, I'm going to show you how we will cut off the bottom there. And this is where using the arrows to move things around really comes in handy, because if it's getting down to the minute little details, it can be very useful. Okay, so this was good to set those up. Now, I'm a little curious how this is going to behave. So firstly, I want to make sure they're all kind of lined up. Not super important given what I'm about to do later, but still, it's good to have that aligned. I'm kind of curious to, oops, I didn't mean to group it. So I'm going to click and drag, select them all. That'll be a little bit faster. And now for position, I'm curious what will happen if I do horizontal. So space evenly horizontal to make sure the spaces are exactly the same. That's what this will do. Oh good, it behaved exactly as I wanted. Great. Okay, now for this. Now I could keep doing it one by one, but what's going to be a little quicker, now that I've done a couple, I'll grab the entire group, Control C, Control V, and there we go. That's going to make it a little faster for me. And just Control C, Control V, the whole group again. Okay. Now I want to select everything again. So we'll do a few more positioning, so we'll make sure everything is aligned at the bottom and spaced out horizontally. Great. Now let's group that. Okay. We're going to run into one more issue, but I'll cover that in a second. I'm just thinking about the white. We do need the white in the background because it has to kind of cover. So I group that. That's one big object. So I feel confident enough to get rid of this now. So as I mentioned, why I'm not so worried about these little edges at the bottom is because this is going to be a picture, a PNG that we download. So because that's the case, I can move that to the bottom, and you see the bottom now is all cut off, right? And because this is a PNG, that means that this is going to be transparent is the idea. So we'll be able to see like right through it to the white of the star at the end. Now I do want to put these white here's behind the red stripes. So if we have all these stacked on top of one another, you can see that these stripes here cover these ones here. That's why it's important to have white between here. But I want to leave this open so we'll have some flexibility for how they move and position on top, right? So what we need to do then in this case is draw another square, white square behind it just to cover the right side, but not inside of here. So I'm going to go ahead and hit this. We're going to make this long and tall, cover everything, and then we're going to skew it. And again, because it's going to be a PNG and most will be cut off, we don't have to be super concerned about it being exact. Now, a useful thing here, it's going to be a little bit tricky to put it behind everything and then try to position it to get it white. So what I suggest is use the benefit of layers here. It's on top of everything. Let's go ahead and make that. Ultimately, what I'm going to get it positioned and colored right before I put it into its final place. So it's not going to be too fidgety for me. So in this case, it's on top and it's gray so I can see it. And I just reduce the transparency. So now the trick will be to shift it so that it goes along with the rest of the lines. So not quite. There we go, almost. Remember, now it's going to be behind everything, so I don't have to be super exact, but I do at least need it to be covered. Okay, so there's that. It's not tall enough. Drag it down. All right. Now let's go ahead and bring that back up to full transparency. Let's change that to the white that we want. Let's go ahead and send that to back. So right click, send to back. There we have it. So what's happened, if I take this square, just to kind of show us an example, and I send this to back, you can see how, because we have that white square from the red as well, this thing is hidden. Right? So that's going to help us to stack them all in a row and get it to be able to make that star. I am a little bit concerned if we have enough room, if it's tall enough to get the effect that we want. So I do wonder if we can make this one a little bit higher. I might be even further from the initial beautiful design, but let's see. So I just resized. Let's see if I move the group of red. Let me zoom out further so I can see the whole thing. Let's take everything, let's move it down. Looks good, although I'm going to need to add one more red square, it looks like, to the end. Now, this is just me trying to be a little bit more cautious to ensure that I don't, oopsie, I just grabbed the entire group and copied it, which was not what I wanted to do. So I'm going to come in on this guy, Control C, Control V. Nope, it's going to force me to ungroup it. Not a problem. So click one, ungroup, grab the final one, Control C, Control V, move it aside. So it's about equal. The other thing I want to make sure is that the white square behind is covering entirely. It's not. And again, to check that, don't force yourself to guess. Just change colors as you need it. Make the program work for you. As you can see, now I've kind of extended it further. Make that back to white, and I think we're ready to download. So here's where the trick comes in. So we knew that we wanted to reproduce this. We figured that, you know what, if we produce this square shape, we can then download it and then place it on top of one another to try to build the square. So we came to a brand new Canva design. We created a core element that we'll reuse, and now we're going to download it. The important thing to do, and then we also made this white square, so it'll be covered, but we left this blank, so that should be see-through because it's a PNG. It'll be transparent, and it'll show. So download, PNG, transparent background, and download. Okay, so there's the file. So on my computer here, I'm going to just open the folder location. You can't see this on your screen, but I'm just in my desktop right now looking at the file. I'm going to go back to the original. I'll go to uploads. Let's upload an image. There's the design. There we have it. Still uploading. Okay, so we got it. So we have our new blank design. Let's try to piece this together. I think we might have one further difficulty because I think very cleverly you don't really see an ultimate top piece. So we might be a little bit troubled on that one. Hey, when I started this episode, I said I was worried about this one, so to help guide me, I think I'm going to grab the initial design, put it here. I'm going to put the transparency way down. We'll see how close I can get. Again, the designer here did a stunning job, so I'm not really sure how close I'll actually be able to get, but we are going to try. So which way does the corner go? Okay. So I'm going to move this here, so I'm just trying to line up the angle roughly. Okay, so as much as when I started I had a clear head or a clear idea of how I wanted to do it, but as soon as I got here trying to figure out the shape was hard, so I definitely needed the guide. So Control V, so we created the image, we downloaded, uploaded, and now we're playing with it and positioning it to create the final image. And as I was worried about, the actual size was a bit small, and so we could have gone a little bit further, but because that'll be covered, we're not going to be as worried. So let's see that just a bit off. Again, if ideally you're just creating this as a inspiration, you're not trying to be too specific, but for the purposes of this design session, I'm just being a little bit closer to the source material. We have a trick for the shadow as well, which we'll get to. So let me grab these two and remove it, and you can see how that's actually kind of piecing together pretty interestingly. I'm going to grab this, and we're going to line that up here. I'm just going to keep drawing. I don't know about you, my eyes are kind of getting a little bit tripped out by all the various lines, so I need to stay focused. Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's fine. So that one is there. So what I'm worried about is as I get to the end, if I'm going to need to create yet another image to create the effect, because I think it's like a box that folds upon itself, but we'll see what happens when we get there. Let me get this guy here. That's looking good. Okay, let's copy last one at the bottom. Yeah, you know what's gonna happen. So yeah, this is like a box that you fold on the top where each of the edges kind of goes back down and then tucks under the next one. So it's kind of creating this constant loop of under. So, you know, already it's not too bad, certainly. Like we could go with this, but I'm kind of curious to see if we can still nail it. So you see every piece starts on top of one and goes under the next. Canva doesn't let us, in fact, every design program, none of them are that smart to say that, you know, layers are fairly straightforward in that this is on top of this. So it can't be on top of this when it starts, but under it afterwards. So to fix that, what we're going to have to do is redo that same trick as far as taking this PNG and cutting off one of the edges so that we can sneak it up to the edge and make it look like it tucks underneath. So I need to make a cut basically right along this line here. So to accomplish this, what we'll do is we'll take these two images, which is kind of funny because we're recycling again where we first created this and downloaded it as a PNG. This was a PNG that we created and downloaded. We then brought over to this design. We're going to take two of these PNGs, re-upload it here, and then crop it and download it a second time as a PNG. So we're kind of cycling through. So a creative way to get this finished. Okay, so I want to use this board here just because we have a bit more space to work with. And let's zoom out and let's paste. So from here I just grabbed the bottom two so I know which ones I'm kind of working with, and I grabbed the two. Now fortunately, because it was so large to begin with, we have some space to make it larger to ensure it doesn't get blurry on our final. I think the way you'd probably want to approach this is actually to use the real source, so you could make it big and small as possible, but for speed's sake we're going to do it this way. And what needs to happen is I need to crop this along this line. So we see this line here, and this one's on top. We need to make a cut right there. So the way we'll do that is we have 1, 2. I'm going to rotate it. So that the one that should be tucking over top is on the left side there. So if you can kind of see what I did again. So from this bottom one here, from the initial design, they kind of tuck underneath one another. We can't do that in Canva. So instead what we're going to do is we're going to make a cut to this bottom image exactly along the line. So we grabbed 1, 2, and I need to have this edge on the exact left side of the photo, so it slices this image, which then we'll cut up. So we brought them here. I rotated it, so here's that back line here, nicely on the left side. And now we're just going to move it to the edge so that when I download it, it'll be cut off in the exact shape that we need. So I'm going to just press over. And I'm going to extend it a little bit just to ensure as much quality as possible. Now I'm pressing the arrow keys and while holding shift, and that makes it jump 10 at a time. If you let go of shift, it does it 1 at a time. That's good because if you want to kind of jump around quickly, that makes that move there. And then once I'm close and I want to be minute, I let go of shift, and now I'm just pressing the arrow keys, and it's just going 1 pixel at a time to help me get where I want to go. Okay, so there's that. Perfect. Now again, you probably want to spend a little time maybe putting this to a different shape so it crops a bit nicer so you don't have all this extra blank space, but not important for what we're looking for. So we'll go ahead and download. Now I only want to download the transparent background. I only want to download the second page. Let's go ahead and download it. We have it. Let's go back to our initial one. Let's go ahead and delete this one at the bottom, and let's upload that new shape we just created. Uploading now. And click it in. Okay, let's get that positioned and let's wrap this one up. So here's that left side we had just fought to make. And then we're going to just make it larger so it fits all the rest. One more time, I think. I wasn't sure about that one. And look at that. Looks like it's cropped, sneaking in under that left side. Oh, that was a close one. Now the final little point here that we can see is he has this really nice subtle shadow on each one. So as I mentioned at my website, I have a shadow pack that you can download, which will give you a whole bunch of shadows for your products. So you got kind of circle ones like this if you have something floating like this, right? So it's kind of a nice effect for those things. There are full squares if you want to have a square on top of that, but most usefully for exactly what we're doing here, there's also these cropped shadows. So you can grab that at my website at Just Enough Design. You'll find that as a free download on the homepage. I am fairly surprised how often I use my own shadow pack, if I'm honest. So in this case, what we're going to do is just for the finishing touch, we're going to sneak that in on each one to raise it up slightly and provide that kind of depth. Unfortunately, we're going to have to get this fairly exact so it doesn't create any weird lines, at least on this one. The other ones we could probably actually sneak below it. Again, we can do layers. Remember that everything is kind of layered here. So if we don't want to be too finicky, we could always just put it underneath. So let's get that there. Whew, I was definitely worried about this one when I first saw it. I wanted to do it. I was trying to think about the shapes and like how on earth you do it, but I also realized again that it was going to be a real cool opportunity to show what I think is a really important mental shift with Canva. You know, it's considering that it's not just what you're working on, it's what it can produce and then come back. So you're producing your own assets. If Canva doesn't have something that you want, you can probably create the thing you want in Canva. And I think that is really liberating, because you can start to look at anything that you want to achieve and break it down by its components and think, okay, well, first I'll create that in Canva and I'll create that in Canva. What's even cooler too is once you create it, you just have it forever. Like these shadow elements, they're just in my library now, and I can pull them out at any time for some work. So if you create something you really like, that's yours forever. That can show up in every design super quickly. Folks, I'm a bit surprised we pulled this one off. Again, I really suggest you check out the initial artist's original page. He's got some beautiful stuff. And we have it. So we started with this beautiful design from the author Allan Peters from Dribbble, from his Dribbble work. To create this, what we had to do was create this line shape that had one side of it being transparent and the other side kind of covered with white and those red stripes. To do so, we hopped over to a different Canva board where we created the lined shape, the white square behind it, so that would be all filled in, but we left the left side blank so that it could be transparent and then feeding off one another. We then brought that back into Canva and layered that 5 times, and we're able to make the square, the star shape right in the middle. One of the extra benefits too is like for that because it is transparent, you could then be able to kind of put any shape or color that you want behind, but that's neither here nor there. So again, so we created the shape, another one in Canva, downloaded it as a PNG and re-uploaded it into our other Canva design. We then placed it in 5 times, shifting it each time to make the various shape and layering it up. We ran into a problem because the way this was designed, it's as if much like a cardboard box where you take one flap and fold it under the next, and the next, and the next, and the next, kind of creating that full circle of them. We can't do that on Canva. So we didn't get worried. We just got creative and did the same trick again. We came back over to the transparent backgrounds, created a new one, and we copied and pasted the PNG, or you could re-upload it, and we used the artboard to crop the one side exactly as we need it, so we could snug it up and make it look as if it's tucking underneath. So we created a new board, re-uploaded the PNG, and used the board of Canva to crop exactly where we needed it. We then re-uploaded that second new striped PNG, tucked it up, and made it look like it was going underneath. To add a final finishing touch, we took some shadow elements we copied from the website, or from my freebie on my website, and added it to the corners to really add to the depth of it stepping on top of one another. And we managed to do it. So as you can see, again, I'll reiterate again, the idea that you can create images that you can then download to reuse in creating images is really powerful. You can see how with that knowledge you can attack any design that you want to achieve and come up with some really cool effects. So I hope you use that to your best advantage. So between some creative tricks and a bit of tenacity, you can create almost anything you want to design in Canva. Hope that was fun for you as it was for me. I had a blast. That was an interesting one. And until next ReCreate with Canva, I'm Trevor. Have a great one. Here's to your great looking designs.